Hey everybody, welcome back into another episode of WSAZ Sports Plus. We're here in the WSAZ Now studio where we always talk football, especially this time of year. And guess who's here with me? Not by myself this week, guys. There is the man himself, James Treacy. James Francis Treacy.
The third.
So we go James F. Treacy. That's pretty fire. What's up, man? Welcome back to the WSAZ Now studio.
That's a real Irish name.
It sure is.
No, it's another week 4 of Football Friday night coming up, and it's every time I look at the games on a Sunday after college football Saturday, I check out what's happening in high school football, and it's like 5 or 6 times I go, oh my gosh, it's like Christmas Eve or Christmas morning every Sunday, seeing what games we get to cover and all the great teams that are going to be featured on Friday night.
And it was a better week for Football Friday night because the weather cooperated, so we didn't have this issue of lightning and storms. Good weather. We did have a power outage, which killed one game for us, unfortunately, and for all those folks. I think it was homecoming there, too.
Oh, it was.
Could you imagine? Yeah, fun week of Football Friday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. I was at Herbert Hoover Nitro at Hoover. Wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I think that was the case everywhere in our region. Because there's nothing more demoralizing on a Friday night when you're covering football and you see the first lightning get close by and you're 30 minutes till you're at least getting back on the field. So Friday night, last one was a fantastic night. Can't ask for better. You couldn't ask for better weather.
Yeah, certainly. You get to those games, you start seeing lightning. You're almost like, I hope the officials didn't see that. Not that we want to put people in harm's way.
Yeah,
but.
If it's far enough, you can kind of look away. But sometimes when it's close, it's you gotta get these people out of those metal stands for sure.
Yeah, it's like during baseball season back in the day. You'd hear some thunder rumbling, and you might tell yourself, "Oh, that's a train that went by. Right? That's a barge on the river. That wasn't thunder." But if you see the lightning, then you're cooked.
Yeah. With the aluminum bat.
All right, Jimmy, let's go through some of these games that we had last week. Our game of the week, of course, was Herbert Hoover and Nitro. That was a game that you were at. Did it live up to your expectation? I guess what was your expectation versus what you saw there? Because it was a heck of a game.
Well, crazy thing was Herbert Hoover, I think, coming in has won 8 of the last 9. But some have been blowouts, but most of them you think were relatively competitive. A year before, Hoover won at Nitro in overtime, and both teams got deep into the playoffs. Nitro lost in the semis to Bridgeport. Hoover lost in the finals to Bridgeport. They brought back a lot of talent, so you knew it was going to be close. And I think Nitro scored first. I'm like, okay. Then Hoover scored. Then you realize this thing's going to be really good. It was intense. The crowds were both in it. The place was packed, as you can understand. And kudos to that. That's the first time I've seen Herbert Hoover, the new school and the facilities. That place,
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Is fantastic. And those kids, the field is great. It's just kind of tucked into that mountain. I thoroughly enjoyed that evening. You knew it was going to go back and forth, and boy, it did.
They found themselves in a situation where you're trailing late, and Nitro has the ball, and you've got to make something happen just to give yourself a chance to win. So Hoover forces a fumble with like 4 minutes to go, and then that sets us up for Voss Dernberger hitting the game-winning field goal with a minute to go. He was also our kicker of the week, wasn't he?
Yeah, we have the end of the show feature called Kick of the Week, but you know what? Thankfully, he booted a big old punt in the first half. That got Nitro deep in the territory. Of course, as good as they are, they scored about 5 plays later. But still, an impressive punt by him, and we thankfully had that video in the files so that we could use it because trust me, we tried every which way but loose to get that game winner that maybe some fans would have had. But we're lucky. But we saw some other people posted up there, and it was he's got a big leg, and he drilled it. Game winner.
And full disclosure for people, sometimes they probably are like, how come they couldn't just rip that off of the internet or something? No. You're putting something on TV. You got to have permission. It's got to be legit, and it's not as easy as just, hey, it's on my phone. I'm going to post this to Twitter or something like that, So wish we would have had it, but the people at Herbert Hoover certainly lived it and understand what a big moment that was. So the Huskies win 15-14. You think about the way their season started, losing a heartbreaker to Independence and coming back from down multiple scores in that game and having a chance to win that one, starting out 0-1 and then winning your next 2 against pretty good Winfield and Nitro teams. Herbert Hoover's going to be a problem in AAA, don't you think, Jimmy?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, seem to have a really good balance. They have a new quarterback playing for them this year, but he seemed composed and knew who to hand it off to and knew when to pass it. And when you play against a team with really good athletes like Nitro does, and you're able to come back with a win, and especially at home, that's got to give them tons of confidence, because it's almost like you get one of your hardest games out of the way. Maybe Independence too, because when you lose there, maybe that was a game where, first game of the year, let's get maybe first game jitters, who knows? But they got down big, came back. Independence won late. So this whole season for these teams, especially the young kids, is a learning process, and you got to think they learned a lot Friday by beating Nitro. I'm sure confidence is sky high as we near the end of the month and into October.
You got to feel like these two teams, it's possible they could very well see each other again come late October, November time,
It's all about, I guess, the seedings, and now they're in both AAA, and if they're on opposite ends of the bracket, and if one of them, I guess, could knock off Bridgeport, because Bridgeport beat both pretty good, but who knows who the Indians lost last year. So, but it would certainly be fun in Charleston if that place had Nitro and Herbert Hoover. I know when I was leaving at halftime, they had cars all the way down to the road, parked. So you're walking half mile just to the field alone. So that's how big and how crowded that game was on Friday.
Yeah. How about let's come back towards this way. Huntington beating Spring Valley 38-7. The Highlanders rushed for more than 383 yards, Jimmy, 12 yards per carry. The Highlanders getting it done on the ground, and that's the recipe for winning football games. It's been that way for 150 years, isn't it?
Especially when you have the athletes they do this year. Tavion Wilson behind center most of the night. So, and he threw a great pass the week before in their win over Martinsburg. So, when you can control the football, which Billy loves to do, and keep that other team's offense off the field, which is why they beat Martinsburg, which is why they handled Spring Valley pretty good. If you can just run clock and wear that defense down, offense gets cold on the other side, which is why they won 38-7. And who knows what that first loss did to them when they realized they played that team from Tennessee and got shut out, but you realized, okay, that's a nice little tester for us. Let's go back to West Virginia and really dominate. Yeah. 3
players went for more than 100 yards, so it's not like one guy had 40 carries and was able to take it more than 300 yards for the night. I apologize if I butchered the last name here, but Trayvon Okonkwo and Mayshawn Okonkwo.
I think you're right on it.
I hope so, man. And then Dante Newsome. All 3 of those dudes rushed for more than 100 yards. You want that, right? You want to have a balanced attack. I know you probably like to have some more passing yards and maybe the 200 rushing, 200 passing kind of game, but hey, look, if it wins you the ball game, do what's working, and the ground game certainly was for those guys.
Especially if you have more than one running back, because sometimes in high school you have that one star senior who can just play all day long, but if you got 3 that can run and 3 that can stay fresh all game long, that can only help you.
All right, let's move on. We'll go Parkersburg as they beat Hurricane 45-16. This was a pretty close game in the first half. I know that score 45-16 you wouldn't think, but it was 17-10 at halftime. Hurricane, of course, looking for their first win of the year. But Parkersburg, pretty opportunistic in the way that they scored there in the first half. They blocked 2 punts, and they capitalized with touchdowns off both of those blocked punts. And Parkersburg's Ethan Jones, another guy running hard on the ground, just like those boys from Huntington. 141 rushing yards for him on 12 carries. Tough sailing for Hurricane right now, and still looking for their first win of the year.
This is one of those years that you just try to rebuild, try to keep the kids healthy, because sometimes you have the ones where they lost their coach, they lost some players, and so you just kind of try to keep everyone in the mix, keep trying to believe what you're coaching and teaching and preaching, and they'll turn it around. They've got too many kids in that school to be to struggle for very long.
Moving on, Winfield beats South Charleston 42-6. Quarterback Jared Miller threw for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also ran for 91. The Generals are now 2-1, Jimmy.
Yeah, that was the previous score from Hoover. Winfield was like, oh, my gosh, Hoover is beating him pretty good, which shows how good Hoover was. And then sometimes you need maybe a wake-up call. Maybe Winfield got it to come back and beat SC pretty good. That's where Donnie Mays is now, and the week before they came back to beat Ripley. So they got talent at South Charleston, but Winfield just they woke up somehow. They woke up big time and won at South Charleston 42-6. Like you said, game never close, led it at halftime big. So the Generals looking good so far.
Yeah, and as it pertains to South Charleston, and we know that they won that week 1 game at Ripley there, and they're going to look different under Donnie May's, round 2 with him, right? But these things take time. There's going to be some growing pains, and it's not going to turn into an 8-2, 9-1 kind of team like what they were used to in the previous tenure with Donnie Mays.
Yeah.
It takes time to get back to that point.
Not the way it's set up now with 4 classes, because you have the big schools playing each other, and now it's Spring Valley AAA, Winfield AAA, right? South Charlotte. I mean, so there are a lot of really good teams in AAA, so you got to bring it every night.
Yeah. All right, how about Poca beating Ravenswood 35-18? We're not here for moral victories because I know that doesn't really play well in the locker room. You guys want to win games no matter how they can. But, Jimmy, tell us about kind of that bright spot for Ravenswood and a young athlete they have on that roster.
Yeah, sophomore running back Ralphie Rhodes had himself a night at a 0-0 Whitefield, 140 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, forced a fumble, recovered a fumble. That's what's great about high school football is you got guys who play both sides of the football, especially in the smaller schools. He had himself a night. Certainly something to build on for the Red Devils for sure. Of course, you said the Dots 2-1. It's good to see. It's always fun when the Poca is good in our region.
Yeah. They only won 4 games last year, so yeah, they're halfway there.
They struggled for a little bit, but I think, like I said, maybe they've gotten some freshmen who are now sophomores who are now juniors, and they're picking it up big time.
Yeah. This is one of the games I was at on the Ohio side of the river, Jimmy. Wahama beats South Gallia 43-13. You talked earlier about kind of the parking spots there on the Elk River. Go to a South Gallia football game and look at the creativity in the parking spots there. You're talking about a lot of hills, and dudes are parking their trucks, and they're almost at a 90-degree angle, or what would that be, 180? Mm-hmm. Regardless.
I've yet to be to South Gallia.
You got to go to South Gallia,
all my years
man.
Here. I'm sure I will.
Yeah, you got to get yourself there, that's for sure.
Wahama looks like the defending champs they are. Their offense is just lights out. I think the first couple of weeks they've been just steamrolling over people, and week 3 was no different for them.
Yeah, that's what was a 3-0 South Gallia team, and Wahama comes in there and kind of shows why they were the class of single A last year. They outgained the Rebels 523-227. Quarterback Cooper Roush was 10 of 12, 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2 of their running backs went over 100 yards. Jimmy, tell us a little bit about the guys they had in the backfield.
That was Reason Stitt, right?
That is correct. He is the reason.
Yes. That's right. Man, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trayvon Bears went over 100 yards. He had a score. Boy, that team is just, once again, they are loaded. Something to deal with for the rest of Class Single A the rest of the year. Now they come back across the river for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, that was really a good measuring stick, I think, for South Gallia because, look, you're playing an out-of-state opponent. You know that they're the defending state champion in their respective state. They come over there and humble you a little bit, but South Gallia is going to be tough. We're going to talk a little bit about the SOC1 later in the show, and you talk about South Gallia, teams like Sims Valley, Notre Dame, Eastern. They all got to play each other at some point. And just because they're not one of those undefeated teams left in the SOC1, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as well. And speaking of, Jimmy.
SOC1, maybe the cream of the crop.
Well, there you go. Maybe. We'll find out soon enough.
All 3 are really good. Sims Valley, they were the team of the week, I think, last week for Andrew, and they've already eclipsed that by beating South Point. And, boy, they just are scary good.
Vikings are 4-0. Are you drinking the Viking Kool-Aid? What do you think about this group, man?
That's – yeah, I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, if they're once they're playing teams at their level. I mean, Bronx Carpenter. I think what did Keith call them?
Bronx Bomber.
Bronx Bomber. I called him the Burrow. But man, when you got a quarterback that can throw it like that, 4 touchdowns, 406 against South Point. Of course, if you throw it, you got to have kids that can catch it. They're doing that. Jackson Fields had 103, 2 touchdowns, and man, if they can just keep putting up those numbers, because Division 7 depth is super important. If these kids can stay healthy. And once you get to playoff time, they don't know that team. They don't know them. So most times, obviously, talent wins out, and they got serious talent.
That Fairfield Christian Academy team, Week 1, played Notre Dame and gave them all they wanted. I think it was only a 2-point loss to the Titans, and that Titan team right now is 4-0. So
I got to find out when Sims Valley plays Notre Dame. That might be game of the week.
It might have to be.
Or even
Eastern. Yeah. Notre Dame, Eastern. I mean, any one of those combinations of those teams could certainly end up being a team of the week. We'll keep an eye on the SOC1, that's for sure. Another game I was at, Jimmy, Gallia Academy beating Portsmouth 28-14. Really, all you can say about this Gallia Academy group is just they're much improved under Dalton Jarrell.
When you go 1-9,
man.
Yeah, they've already eclipsed their win total from last year. Max Canada's playing well. He's a quarterback, and he's playing some fearless football. And that's once you got maybe guys who just are having fun again and they're playing fearless and they're doing their job, you'd be amazed how that can go to the other players on the team, which is probably why they're 2-2 and doubled up Portsmouth.
Portsmouth's kind of been a team I feel like up and down. Week one, they get beat pretty good by Uniota. Then you come back the next week and Portsmouth West. You beat Portsmouth West, right?
Yep.
Then you beat Greenup County, I believe, and then here you come back down to earth against Gallia Academy. They've got some ball players. It's Portsmouth. They're always going to. But just kind of hard to make what this team's going to look like long term as we get into October here in a few weeks.
It's one of those sometimes seasons are a roller coaster where you're up here for a while, then you're down for a little bit. But this is a true roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down. So maybe they're hoping they can kind of go up, stay up high for a while.
They did nab our play of the week this week, too. We had Andrew Cole leaking out there, offensive lineman. He was wearing number 99. I had to text Coach Kolb and say, who is that? Because there was no 99 listed. But that was pretty cool seeing a guy like that almost catch that thing for a touchdown.
I'm sure play of the week is nice, but scoring would have been the icing on the cake for him. But big man on campus for sure.
All right, let's go talk about the Little Brown Jug. We were at Cold Grove in the morning for Fired Up Friday. They were talking their smack, and that's fine as long as you back it up, and they certainly did. They beat Chesapeake 60-14. Did you see the all-gray uniform they debuted, Jimmy?
I did not. The show can be so hectic, and you're kind of looking up and down at our shot sheet and the prompters. I never got a chance they went all gray. That's pretty cool.
They went all gray. It looked a lot like what Ohio State wore back in the J.T. Barrett era, all gray except the numbers were white. But the Little Brown Jug stays in the village of Cold Grove. Cold Grove did start out their season 1-2 after we've been up here talking them up, but they've lost to two really 4-0 teams.
Yep.
So despite that, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the OVC. There's no doubt.
I'm sure they realize let's just get through the first 3 or 4 games, stay healthy, and then once you get to conference play, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, no shame in losing to Russell or Nelsonville York. Both of them 4-0 right now. So we'll take that. That's fine. Tell us a little bit about Minford beating Oak Hill. You want to talk about improved teams? Minford's certainly one of them, Jimmy.
Yeah, 2-2 already, 1-9 last season. It's always fun to talk about the mighty Minford Falcons. Oak Hill has not been good, but you know what? A win is a win, 29-6. They lost to Eastern in a shootout last week. Of course, they've been the class of the SOC1. Minford have a nice little challenge this week as they play at McDermott Northwest, who are 2-2. That's probably one of those rivalries you don't really talk a whole lot about, but I'm sure both schools really, really want to get a win.
Really, any combination of two Scioto County schools, probably not big fans of each other, even though it's friendly and they know who each other are. Maybe some of them even went to elementary school together. But, that'll be fun to see Minford and Northwest this Friday as well. This one jumped off the screen at me when you guys were calling the highlights and you said the final score. Russell beating Paintsville 41-0. I know that Paintsville's a much smaller school and Russell's a much larger school than what they are, but Paintsville is a program with a lot of history and a lot of pride, and I saw them coming to Russell undefeated. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a game, and Russell put it on them.
Russell has some serious mojo, as they call it. Came in undefeated, 3A team versus a 1A team. But Paintsville always has great athletes. They love their football down in Paintsville. But, boy, once the lights went on, Jaden Frazier went nuts, 168 passing, 3 touchdowns. Caden Bengi. It's a Bengi, right?
I want to say it might be Benj.
Benj. He played for the first time this year. And, man, they have the Pennington brothers. And just all of a sudden, because we had our photog there, and she says, I've already got 4 touchdowns. And I thought it was maybe 2 and 2 each. She says, no, Russell's just looked really good right now. The crazy thing about that game was when you show the highlights here, the first touchdown, it looks like half the student section's on the track.
They're all shirtless up there, too.
And they were all shirtless. So
no one's got a shirt on.
When you're 4-0, it gets a whole lot more fun at that field from Ivan McGlone Field. And Russell's, they've really playing well.
Yeah. Of course, the offensive numbers, we've got all the stats listed there, but maybe the most impressive stat of the game is that one, our very last bullet point. They held Paintsville to 4 rushing yards. I can remember back week 1, we were impressed with how they were able to hold Cold Grove to the amount of yardage that they did. I can't remember what the number was, but, kind of kept Caden Murphy in check to a certain degree over there when they played Cold Grove. So it sounds like the rush defense of the Russell Red Devils, they're quite the problem. And that's a good problem to have.
And that can be so demoralizing on offense if you can't run the football.
Can't establish anything.
And then the keen on the secondary, and it's just which is probably why it turned into a blowout real fast between Russell and Paintsville.
All right, let's go to the one Saturday game. I went over there just really for my own curiosity because we hadn't seen Ironton play yet. They've been in Cincinnati. They've been down in the Pikeville area, and they've been playing on Saturdays, and we've got other stuff going on. So Ironton welcomed a team from New York, Canisius. Had never heard of them in my life. But apparently they had a 4-star running back named Elijah Kimball, and that was kind of the talk, I can tell you, around town all week was, man, this 4 or 5-star running back coming in there, and this team's going to be good. And Ironton did what they do, and it's put it on a team. They don't care who you are. They don't fear anybody. That team looked bigger than them up front. I don't think it really mattered. Ironton just beat the doors off of this team, quite honestly, and pretty impressive stuff when you got a team in there you don't know much about, and you see they got this running back that's supposed to be the real deal.
And it could be one of those things in sports where it's like, you know what, let's let Kimball get his and make the others work like crazy to get theirs, which is why he scored twice but only 74 yards. And if it's frustrating for the other guys not to get open, not to get passes, not to get yards, then that's kind of why Ironton just kind of jumped on him pretty quickly. And then just kind of, I think it was a running clock for the final, at least it was for the first half. But Ironton is so deep at so many positions, and they just kind of put it on them.
Yeah. I had the 3 touchdowns for you, 21-0 in the first quarter, and I said, Jimmy, I'm headed to Columbus.
Time to go. that was plenty. But Edwards had, when your quarterback runs for 152.
Yeah.
I mean,
he can fly, man.
That can be just so tough for a defense if you stop Zane Williams and the quarterback's running by you. Yeah, which is probably why it was 55-21.
Well, I bet you Zane Williams probably heard a lot of the talk about the other team's running back, and he was saying, hold on now. I'm one of the best around here, too. He went for about $150, 3 touchdowns, and even had a halfback pass where they're about a yard away from a touchdown there. He hit Brayton Baker for about 40 yards downfield. Zane Williams certainly proved his point on Saturday afternoon.
That's why I like Ironton, and what Ironton's doing, Huntington's doing is, that's just why Ironton had to get out of the OVC, because, they don't really learn a lot by just blowing people out like they have been doing the last few years, but you can learn probably a lot more when you're playing a team like Canisius, a team from Canada from a couple of years ago, and who they play week 1?
Shelby Valley.
Yep. And that was a beat
down. Had to
down
think
too.
about it.
That was a beat down too. So, yeah, they'll be just fine in November, I'm sure.
Couple of additional notes, Jimmy. Rock Hill, come from behind victory at Fairland. I was honestly coming through the Proctorville McDonald's, and I stopped in the parking lot to watch the stream of the game because Fairland was driving late with a chance to possibly kick a game-winning field goal, and Rock Hill holds on to win 33-32. They trailed 11 points in the fourth quarter for their first win over the Dragons since 2016. So shout out to the Redmen. That's a big win for them, especially if they have OVC championship aspirations.
And any time you can get a win at the Concrete Palace is a big win. So no doubt the Redmen were pretty stoked after that one to get out of there with a win, especially the way they did it.
How about Johnson Central? Another big win for them, beating Pikeville 35-14. They're 4-0.
Something tells me they might be making another trip to Lexington in December, where they're playing so well right now in Pikeville. It was 14-all at halftime, and then just second half, 21 unanswered points, and there you go.
All right, Jimmy, we said we would talk a little bit about the SOC one. Just a little tidbit here, because I know we've talked a lot about Sims Valley the last few weeks. We've got other teams that are rolling in the SOC one. Notre Dame's 4-0. Sims Valley's 4-0. And Beaver Eastern, of course, who hasn't lost a regular season game since 2022, they are also 4-0. That's a league that sometimes doesn't get the pub that it should. It's small school football, but that's going to be a fun next couple of months when all 3 of these teams have to play each other. And again, South Gallia in the mix there too.
Yeah, once we're done recording this edition, I'm going to go down and see when they all play each other, so I can make a point to get a camera to hopefully when they play each other every time, because that the kids deserve it. There are 3 schools. You don't get a whole lot just because sometimes it's difficult. But yeah, they're going to get asterisks on their schedule when those 3 teams play each other in one way, shape, or form. All super talent.
All right, you ready to go to next week?
Sure am.
Tell us about our game of the week, Jimmy.
Already here. Well, normally I like to give myself game of the week, but since you live in Ironton, I'm giving it to Joseph this week. Ironton versus Jackson. Another one of those games when you see the schedule. If you happen to just have some time in August and say, when's this game? What's this name? And I'm like, that was one that you know we're going to be at, and it's going to be game of the week. Dates back over 100 years this series. Jackson certainly was something to prove as they lost to Wheelersburg a few weeks back. That's a game they had at home, so they definitely want to bring it. But Ironton is just loaded once again. Edwards, Zane Williams, Bryson Mullins, Maddox, Markle, and company. They have just been lights out on offense, and I'm certainly the Ironmen know it's going to be hard to stop that offense.
It's been a competitive series. I know last year Ironton went up to Jackson and kind of put it on them a little bit. They won 51-14. But you remember a couple years ago, Ironton won this thing at the buzzer. It was a Ty Perkins kick return in the last play of the game. And I was talking to Coach Andy Hall in the preseason about kind of their goals this year and what they want to do. They, of course, want to try and win a regional title and make a run in the playoffs, win their conference. But beating Ironton is certainly pretty high on that list because it's a matchup that has really eluded them in years past. So guys like Bodie Wolford, Ryan Simons, Eli Ray, all these dudes at Jackson that have gone their careers without beating Ironton, they would love nothing more than to come to the tank and beat those guys. And most people would probably call that an upset. People in Jackson probably wouldn't think of it that way. So we'll see. Ironton leads the series 38-9.
7 ties.
Time. 7 ties, though.
That's amazing.
38-9-7. Okay. So
those must have been ties in the 30s and 40s.
I was looking it up, fourseasonsfootball.com. That's where I get a lot of my information. So whoever's keeping up with that site, thank you.
Impressive.
And you just do the Control F and search your team. That's where we're getting it. So that'll be fun. That's a 7:30 kickoff, Jimmy.
Yep,
so
they moved that puppy up. I'm sure
did.
the tank will be packed as usual, both sides.
No doubt. Okay, let's go over to the Commonwealth, Russell and Ashland. That's a rivalry game. Neither of these teams like each other. It's just like kind of the Miley Cyrus Bowl. Her mom went to Ashland. Her dad went to Russell. Russell's 4-0, and it's only the 4th time they've been 4-0 since the year 2000. They were 4-0 in 04, 07, 2020, and now 2025. It looks like if there was ever a year for them to get Ashland and get to 5-0, this would be the year, but easier said than done.
Yeah, and they have them in Russell, which has got to help. It's going to be packed. The fans are going to be nuts. The student section is going to be crazy. The Devil's going to be jumping around like a crazy person. And Russell is very talented this year. Outscored opponents by by 101 points in their 4 wins. They're hard to stop. Ashland has some tough losses, Lawrence County and Raceland, which was week 1, and they certainly don't want to be 2-3. They certainly have some challenges coming up this weekend at Russell.
Yeah, you think about Ashland's 2 losses, Lawrence County and Raceland. They're not used to getting beat by teams in their own backyard. So they're probably sitting there thinking to themselves, we cannot lose this rivalry game. We cannot lose to somebody that's just down the road from us again. But easier said than done on that side, too, because Russell's tough this year. Coach Maynard's boys have been lighting it up, that's for sure. How about this one? I'm not sure that I saw this one coming.
This one snuck up on us.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming. We've talked about undefeated teams and whatnot. We've not really talked at all about the Valley Indians. They're 4-0, man. But now it gets real. It gets real. You got undefeated Wheelersburg coming to town, and, man, they have not beat Wheelersburg since 2013. That was my senior year. A lot of the guys on that Valley team I ended up in college with at OU, and I know what kind of group they had. Valley would love nothing more than to beat Wheelersburg and get to 5-0.
I guarantee you we've already got the photog set for that game Friday night. When you look at it, 2 4-0 teams, Valley's outscored their opponents 129-10.
They've given up 1 touchdown all year.
That is just crazy good. Haven't lost to Valley, though, Wheelersburg since 2013. Of course, it's been a one-sided series. But, how pumped is Wheelersburg after coming off from Jackson win? Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
And it could be one of those things where – does this team with a little bit better talent just kind of jump on them early and pull away? But, I tell people all the time when talking about a game where one team should easily win the other, it's like, look, all they got to do is keep it close.
And you got them at home, man.
And you got them at home.
Force a couple turnovers, that crowd's going to be into it. They're going to be on fire regardless. And you got Wheelersburg coming to town, and both teams are undefeated. If you're Wheelersburg, Coach Woodward, Braylon Rucker, and the boys, you're saying, man, we're battle-tested. We've beaten McNicholas. We've beaten Jackson. Let's just do what we do. Wheelersburg's a prideful, confident group, so not that they're looking past Valley, but they're confident in their own abilities, and I'm sure that Valley has their attention.
If you're dealing with sports and kids, once they get a little bit of taste of momentum and success, it's crazy what they can accomplish, and then you hope that builds over to their college and professional lives. But you can see when a team gets it, they can be really good. And maybe Valley has got it, and they can just make it interesting with the Wheelersburg. I'm sure they will.
Let's go back over to Kentucky, Jimmy. This is one of my favorite matchups every year. I've had the luxury of being, in Grayson for a few of these matchups. East Carter and West Carter battle for the barrel, Jimmy.
Yeah, we're something tells me we might have that might be Andrew Colgrove's game of the night because he does such a good job doing features at the games he goes to, and when you have two county rivals who just really, really like to beat up on each other, and it's the battle for the barrel. Who knows what they could do with that? But yeah, something tells me that hopefully that's Andrew's story. One way or the other, we're gonna have a camera there for it, whether it is or not, because that's one of those great cross county rivalries we have every year.
Think about East Carter. They lost that first game to Belfry, and they've really not looked back since. Landon Yoke last week, I believe, had his or scored his 50th career touchdown. We've said it each week. We've said his name each week. If you want to beat East Carter, you got to stop that dude. And really no one has yet. Even Belfry didn't. He had a big old chunky yardage in that game too. You want to move on down to Logan County? You said we got 2 games in Logan County. You got to get both of those, right?
We always like to make a point to say when Chapmanville Regional and Logan are both home, we got to get a camera there because they're 15 minutes apart. And also we don't get Midland Trail a whole lot. And they're 3-0. Chapmanville is coming off some good wins. I mean, Scott, they must be in a rebuilding year because the Tigers beat them 41-0. Nicholas County, they doubled up. And Midland Trail, a team that I know people watch us at Midland Trail because they seem to let us know when they're playing well, and they certainly are this year, which is why we're going to go to that game. 2 teams combined 5-0.
Do you think it'll be one photog getting both of those games?
Dominic.
Dominic the Dominator. All right.
I've already
Say hi to the Dominator if you guys are in Logan County.
I've already done the
Friday night.
Preliminary note, and it's like go to Logan Wayne first, which we'll talk about next, and then Chapmanville and come on home.
All right. Well, what do you think about that Logan and Wayne game? Wildcats have wins over Man, Riverview, and Tug Valley. Wayne has beaten Tulsa and Scott. They did get beat by Mingo Central last week. I think it was 28-7. So they're kind of writhing right now. Probably feel like we got to get off the schneid here and try to get us a win at Logan. But Wildcats are 3-0.
Yeah, Wayne beat them last year, 55-20. But who knows who they lost for both teams. And if both are combined 5-1 right now, you got to think that one's going to be very competitive. Looking for the first win over the Pioneers since 2022. Tommy Harmon always coaches his boys up so well. That's another one that the parking lot will be interesting.
Yeah, certainly will.
There might be people parking a half mile away.
It might be easier to parachute in. That way you can avoid all the hills.
That's another great atmosphere for a high school football game.
It really is.
It's cutting the mountain as well, like Herbert Hoover is, and you can just kind of feel the history in that town.
Come back closer to home. Final 2 games, Jimmy. Huntington High and Hurricane. What do you think?
Well, because this game, I'm going to be live at Ironton and Jackson, and I'm going to let you take over at 6 so I can get to my 2 games, the ones we're going to talk about next, Huntington High Hurricane, Spring Valley and Midland, 10 minutes apart from each other. So I'm kind of deliberating what game do I go to first. Does Huntington High just say, you know what, we're gonna pound you, we're gonna get up 21-0 like that, and just run the clock and beat up on you some more, and then with Cabell Midland's game against George Washington, Spring Valley's 1-2, so something tells me I might be hitting the HHS games first, and then hopefully Spring Valley and Midland will be a good finish as well. Haven't got a good Hail Mary in the longest time.
We need somebody to throw one up, man, don't we?
They gotta throw it that far.
Well, you gotta throw it that far, and somebody's gotta catch it too. We can all throw it. Well, maybe not all of us.
No, I can.
Some of us can throw it. I'm not saying I can.
I got small hands.
I do too. This is a soccer player's hands.
You got to think. Right? You got to think Billy Seals is going to just, like I said, his talent. He'll tell his guys, look, jump on these guys early. Don't let them get up. Let's put them away. So maybe they can play some newer kids and rest the veterans because they're going to need them. In the October, November stretch run. But you got to think that the High is going to roll in that one.
And then when I look at that Spring Valley versus Cabell Midland game, of course, Midland has struggled this season. It's been an uphill climb for them, but Spring Valley, despite them being 1-2, no shame in either of those 2 losses. You lose to GW and Huntington. I mean, those might be the 2 best teams in the MSAC.
And I've always asked coaches this in August for the last 10 years, even before then. It's like, between Spring Valley and GW, that I-64 corridor is like a juggernaut. I mean, you don't get a break. And look at Spring Valley 1-2. Brad Dingus always has great kids, talent. They love to run the football. They got some great secondary players. But man, they already played GW and Huntington this year, so you got to think maybe
got those out of the way,
and get them out of the way. Then you'll kind of come back to the Class AAA teams, and come tournament time, the T-Wolves will be ready, and Midland they got some work to do for sure.
Of course, Jimmy, we know that there's plenty of other games. If we could get to all of them, buddy, trust me, we would.
If we had a cast of thousands, but we don't.
We don't.
We try though. Trust me.
There's just a handful of us. If you see us, I mean, it's kind of a rarity, I guess. And depending on how close you are to the station, you see us a little bit more. But let's talk about some of these other matchups throughout the Mountain State here. You got Ritchie County at Braxton County, St. Albans at Capital. Capital coming off a bye week, but they got to feel pretty good about possibly getting to 2-1 for the first time in what I imagine would be quite a few years.
Something tells me we might have a camera at that game, especially with the Cougs off last week. They're rested after beating Midland the week before. So, yeah, Capital, if they can get to 3-1, they certainly have some nice momentum heading into October.
South Charleston's at GW. Herbert Hoover is at Lincoln County. Mingo Central is at Man. And Nitro, hoping to get back in the win column after losing our game of the week this past week, at Riverside. We'll go to the next graphic here, Jimmy. Lead us off here. Who we got on this side of the graphic?
Friday night, South Harrison at Poca. See if the Dots can win another game. And this is going to be a pretty good game. I would bet for sure. Ripley at Point Pleasant. Independence to Scott. How good are the Patriots? Will they shut out Scott like they were shut out last week? And Tug Valley Tulsa.
That's a fun rivalry now. Remember Andrew Colgrave's package he did down there last year?
Oh,
that was awesome.
They've been sitting up on that hill for a long time, and it's just to have a fly on the wall in that place would be interesting.
I bet they're solving all the world's problems up there.
Another great game. Williamstown at Roane County. Raiders are always good. See what the Yellow Jackets can do, and the nice little cross interstate matchup here. Magoffin County going to Winfield.
Yeah. We used to always joke whenever we would see the WSAZ like school closings and delays come across. We always said, "Man, Magoffin County, they're always off school there." So we always kind of envied them.
Those lucky kids.
They're off school all the time. At least back in the early 2000s, it felt that way. I was just wanting them to say, "Ironton Catholic Schools closed." We didn't get that very often. Anyways, let's go to Ohio this time, Jimmy. Gallia Academy at Fairland. Fairland coming off a loss to Rock Hill. The Blue Devils coming off a win against Portsmouth. Also have Minford and Northwest. We talked about how improved Minford has been. This will be a test for them against Northwest.
River Valley at Meigs, also South Gallia at Oak Hill. Cold Grove at Portsmouth will be there for that game. And then Portsmouth West traveling up 23 to take on Waverly.
We'll go to the next graphic, and we've got the Southern Tornadoes going up to Pike County, Ohio to play the Eastern Eagles. Grandview Heights comes to Chesapeake. The Tartans of Sciotoville East go to the other Eastern in Meigs County. They're both the Eastern Eagles. It's just Eastern Meigs, Eastern Pike. Then you also have Rock Hill at South Point. This game intrigues me. I know that South Point just came off a loss to Sims Valley, and Rock Hill, of course, coming off their win against Fairland. But you just never know in OVC play, do you?
No, especially when two teams are so close to each other. And like you said, they know each other. They probably played buddy league football against each other, dating back to when they're 7, 8 years old. And sometimes when you get beat, like South Point did, they might get a little angry and say, look, we got to do something. We got to figure it out. And they're at home, so maybe that's a game they figure it out.
Green Bobcats heading up to Belpre. That's quite the trip up that way.
Haven't had the Bobcats yet this year on Football Friday night. We got to get them closer.
Yeah, we certainly do. Have my boy Chris Kimbler send us a schedule, and we'll see when we can get to the Bobbies. And then you also got Wellston heading up to Alexander there in Albany, Ohio. Finally, in Kentucky, how about this one, Jimmy? Pikeville and Belfry. They're always excited for that one.
Yeah, we're one of our sister station, WIMT. I'm sure that's probably their game of the week where they actually televise it, so we'll be getting highlights from them for sure. Pikeville and Belfry, man, that's going to be a war between teams who've won a lot of state titles.
Mm-hmm. Fairview and Boyd County, Greenup County and Fleming County, Floyd Central and Betsy Lane, Pulaski County and Johnson Central. And then this one here, I was told by some good folks down in Lawrence County, they say, hey, if we can beat North Laurel, we just might win out. That's That's kind of the discussion down that way. But that's a 5A school. North Laurel's tough.
Yeah, win that first one first.
Yeah, win the first one first, and then we can talk about the rest of the year. But Lawrence County's tough. They should be well rested. They haven't played since they beat Ashland. They were off last week, so should be well rested and ready to go for North Laurel. And then the final 4 games here. How about Martin County and Shelby Valley? Prestonsburg, who's been on this year, they play Pike Central. Paintsville trying to bounce back from their loss to Russell. They play Frankfort. And then Raceland welcomes Newport Central Catholic. Heck of a docket of games for this football Friday night, Jimmy.
The Rams are back on FFN this week. I'm not sure how good Newport Central Catholic is, but Raceland has something. I'd be shocked if they don't get back to Kroger Field in December as well. They've been playing.
Any lasting thoughts for folks here, Jimmy, on as we kind of start knowing a little bit more about these teams around this time? Okay, you've got a larger sample size. We're not doing a whole lot of speculating anymore, even though we did just say, well, maybe Lawrence County will go undefeated. But you start seeing the results. You start having more data points. You're seeing the cream of the crop rise to the top. I don't know, anything jump out at you so far this season? Any team, any player specifically? Not to put you on the spot, but I guess I am.
We knew Ironton was going to be good. You never know about. Huntington's always has great talent, but you weren't sure because how good Tavion Wilson would be at quarterback because he's their quarterback for much of the game. But he's a super talent, and they seem to kind of get it with him. But it's just I think once we get to October, we really got a good handle on who's going to be a serious threat in November. That's for sure.
I love getting to that point in the year when you start seeing the playoff points matriculate, or whatever the word for that is. I couldn't even pronounce what I was just trying to say. But you start seeing the playoff points kind of come together, and you're like, okay, this team probably needs to go 2-1 over the next 3, or they're out. Or if this team loses that game, they're probably out. We're not quite to that point yet.
The crazy thing is, we're almost halfway through Ohio and Kentucky. And it's only September because it's week 4 of Football Friday night, but week 5 for them because they started a week earlier. And they'll be done. I think Ohio's done the 24th. Kentucky is done the 31st of October. And then it's go time. So this season, the thing about this season, it flies by. It felt like yesterday it was the 22nd. We're at the Ohio Kentucky games, and then a week later, all 3 states joined the party. And we're almost halfway through 2 states, and won't be very long until halfway through West Virginia, and then it really gets serious because then teams are desperate and are wanting to play better and get a better seed for tournament time.
Yeah, at least the West Virginia and Kentucky schools have those built-in bye weeks. In Ohio, you go 10 straight weeks, and if you want to bye, you better make the playoffs and be a top 4 seed. Then you can sit out on Halloween if you want. Well, not if you want. You will sit out on Halloween if you're a top 4 seed.
That's a good night to sit out.
I guess you can go trick or treating.
I'm already putting out the notice to the fans. Come ready on Halloween night.
Please dress up, do all that, right?
Well, last year was weird because Halloween was on a Thursday, so they didn't dress up the Friday before. You had 6 weeks till the actual Halloween. And November 1st, it's November. I was going to put a costume on in November. So I've been looking forward to Halloween night show for a long time.
That'll be fun.
We can look forward to it. Teams can't, but we can.
We can, that's for sure. All right, Jimmy, I appreciate you joining me. I will let you go because, well, I don't know what you have going on today. I'm assuming more football. You have live shots.
GW.
Full disclosure, we record this on Monday, so there is a game tonight.
It takes some time to put these things together, and we do them on Mondays, and the power maybe call it the Power Bowl. Yeah. GW Midland lost power Friday night, and really they lost power. No one knew about it. Because it happened like in the 6 o'clock hour. Our photog showed up, and someone at the front says, "No game." He's like, "What do you mean?" He says, "We have no power." And even, hardly anybody knew about it. And then when a transformer blows, it's not a quick fix. So it was funny because at noon they said game on Saturday, and about 10 minutes later it's like, no, you don't, because it's homecoming. Kids had to get ready, so
we got stuff to do on Saturday.
Yeah, got to get all dolled up and get your suits ready, and but yeah, it'll be a fun Monday. And these kids are young; they can play 2 games in 5 days.
They'll be all right. It's less than ideal, probably not the best scenario, but it can be done.
And what I talk about is losing the game hurts the home team. The band relies on concessions. The teams rely on the gate. You're going to lose thousands of dollars by not having the game, And if it's only a couple of days removed, why not do it? Because, it gives your kids experience. And a vast majority of them don't play football after high school, so give them as many chances as possible.
Well, just losing a home game if you're a senior.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of those matters just as much as the last one and the next one, so you don't want to lose that either. So everyone already knows the result of that game as they sit here and listen to us. We don't. You'll find out tonight.
I got a feeling what it might be, but you never know. I've covered enough games to know that some crazy things can happen.
That is true. Well, Jimmy, I appreciate you joining us up here. I guess we'll let you get out of here if you want.
Keith should be into work by now, so let's go see where he is.
All right. That's fine. Go turn on Shawshank down there or whatever, whatever you want to turn on. Jaws.
Jaws is done for the summer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was James F. Treacy. I believe stands for Francis, if I recall correctly. Jimmy Treacy joining us on the WSAZ Now desk. Before I let you go, which typically means I'm about to tell you where Fired Up Friday is this week. Where is Fired Up Friday this week? Well, we are going back to East Carter. We talked about the Battle for the Barrel on this program, East Carter versus West Carter. This is a special matchup for all kinds of reasons, but of course we know that they're talking about school consolidation there, and inevitably that's coming at some point soon. So how many times we're going to get this matchup, I'm not real sure. But I hope the folks down in Carter County enjoy it while we still have it. County bragging rights on the line, man. It's going to be awesome. So we're going back down to East Carter. We were there 2 years ago for this very same matchup. Place was on fire. The kids loved it, and I'm not just saying that. They truly did. And then earlier this spring, when I put out kind of a post on social media saying, hey, where should we go? A majority of the comments, if the post still exists out there, you go look, majority of the comments were kids from East Carter saying, come to East Carter. Come to East Carter. Guess what? We're coming to East Carter. So excited to see you guys. It's going to be a fun morning. Battle for the Barrel, baby. Come on. Let's go. Exciting stuff. All right, remember, follow us on social media at WSAZ Sports Plus. We post clips from this show, of course, on those handles, as well as on my Facebook, but we're also posting highlights from Football Friday night. So you can share it with your buddies on there. Makes it easy. Just throw that up on the story, send it in Messenger to them, whatever. A lot of you are sending me stats on Instagram, letting me know, hey, Bronx Carpenter threw for 1,000,000 yards. That's great. That helps us out with this show, and it lets us recognize the people that need to be recognized. We don't want to miss that kind of stuff. So feel free to reach out to us. If you feel like we missed something, let us know. So yeah, follow us on social media. Feel free to interact with us on there. Remember that we're on podcast platforms now as well, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the WSAZ News Channel 3 YouTube. And if you don't have the WSAZ app, that is where this show lives, if you want to watch it as it truly streams. So download the WSAZ app, and then on Tuesdays at 6:30, you pull up the WSAZ News Live Streams tab. You will see me, Keith, Jimmy. We'll be on here talking football. It's been a fun year. I feel like we're still just getting started, man. Football lasts forever, seemingly. Not quite as long as like the NBA does, but football lasts forever. I wish it truly did. But we'll be joining you each week up here on the WSAZ Now studio. So I appreciate all of you that have been listening to us, have been watching us, and have told others to do the same. So for now, I am Joseph Payton. This has been WSAZ Sports Plus. I'll see you next Tuesday at 6:30.